Hey everybody, it is the Helixfossil here with Coltrainz, and we're here to do the NPBA Season 8 Johto PRs.
Hello, everybody. I'm really looking forward to doing Johto this season. Normally, I'm down in the lower division, Sinnoh, Hoenn. It'd be nice to get up here and give a little bit more of a critical view of these teams.
Yeah, we were both Johto guys for a while there, so it'll be nice to look at the old division. Still the best division, even
Right?
though you guys
Yeah, it's
were
still my home, even though
slow.
I've been in Kanto.
Yeah, even though you guys were slow on the draft, it's still my favorite. So we'll jump into these. They're in one order, but we'll save that till the very end, where we give my rankings and then we give Coltrane's rankings. And remember, these are just for fun. Whatever we say doesn't really matter. It's all about how you do. So if you get offended by it, prove us wrong. If we think your team's great, make sure you do well so that we look really smart.
Yeah, and I imagine as we go through this, you're going to see some disagreements coming out from both of us. I typically work off of a rubric, which is going to dock you points for not having certain things. Realistically, not every team needs a full XYZ core or certain intangible objects that uh, will make your team good. It's mostly how you play, and there's some stuff that I might have missed going through because 2 points of my 11 is intangibles, which is just whatever I feel like. So
Love it.
it's got a little bit of variance from my side.
I'm just here for vibes. I just picked the teams that, that I liked and I thought would be fun to play, or vice versa, not fun to play against. So from there, we'll start it off. We have Fajita 6, Nemo, or Frapito. I don't know how you pronounce that, but you know, first thing that jumps out is Mesprit on the first pick, but I think that was supposed to be Necrozma. I don't know what else you changed to make that work, but Coltrane, do you
Yeah, I
remember?
remember. I remember looking back. He dropped like 5 or 6 things. Uh, I think it was originally had Necrozma, Ninetales, Alola, uh, a couple other mons. Um, and so this team went through some changes. Uh, Realistically, I'm not sure if they were for better or for the worst. Dropping Ninetales Alola means that you don't have a fairy type anymore, which is I feel like pretty drastic in draft. Uh,
I think it's the
Fairies
second or third
defensively,
best type.
offensively, right? Really pull a lot of things into a team, right? Outside of that, let me take a look here at what I wrote down. Um, Ground immunity. You're really banking just on Mesprit, which is a bit rough. You have the grassy terrain to help with EQs coming in.
Doesn't stop that Earth power.
Yeah, it doesn't stop Earth power. Your speed tiers are a little bit off, in my opinion. You only got one remover, right? And we're looking at Frostmoth to be doing all of that work. God forbid you ever get Sneasler taken away early and there's T-Spikes, or you don't really want to be switching in Sneasler onto T-Spikes in most spots because it will use up your Grassy Seed that you're using for Unburden. So it's a little bit awkward overall, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's a little awkward. I think Zygarde is obviously a fantastic Terra, um, but your Steel type is Magnezone, which is kind of a fake Steel in my opinion. You're gonna want to run it offensive 9 times out of 10. You're not gonna want to run it defensive, even if it's like
Mm-hmm.
an AV. Your Stealth Rocks are basically it is only Mesprit, and then Spike is Greninja, which if you're running offensive can be a little tough to fit sometimes. So and
And you're very rarely going to be running T-Spike on Sneasler as well.
yeah, that'd be I don't know when you would, but I'm sure there's an instance where you can make it fit. I think Rillaboom, Arcanine, Greninja is a pretty good water, fire, grass, but you could run another bulkier water. Greninja, changing type isn't great for your core there. I do like Frostmoth as a low tier Terra Captain, and I don't know. This team just feels kind of awkward to me. I feel like it's probably going to struggle this year, but we'll see, or this season.
Yeah. I mean, I foresee it struggling too, but you know, it could do things. Sneasler is a strong mon, so is Zygarde.
Yes.
You can punch holes in teams.
You've got some good setup options in Rillaboom too. So it's not in Frostmoth. I don't think it's definitely workable. It's just, maybe you pilot this team different than we're looking at it. So hopefully we're wrong and you kind of tear it up, but we'll see. I think we've kind of nailed this one. Want to move on to the next one?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Manchester Mawiles, coached by Phonytail.
Yeah, I think this is probably we're gonna disagree on.
Yeah, I think
this
is
one,
the first one.
100%. Right off the bat, it's lower for me because there's a couple different spots we're gonna be losing points on my rubric. Realistically, your hazard game is a bit struggling with Nihilego and Dunsparce as your like only setters, and your really truly only remover is going to be Rotom Wash, because if you're going to be tearing offensively on Tornadus, running Defog might actually be a bit of a hard sell into your build. Outside of that, you're missing a part of your Fire, Water, Grass core, being Grass, and that also dips into your ability to kill Waters. Rotom is a great switch into Waters, but you have a really tough time beating anything like Swampert, Gastrodon, any water ground. Really hard to get that super effective coverage coming out of your team. So that's the main areas where this team loses points on my side. But there's plenty of good stuff, and I'm sure you're going to go into that.
I mean, it does a lot of damage. Moon and Ursaluna as just two physical, breakers, because Moon you can't Terra, so it kind of eliminates its best acrobatics, Terra, flying booster set. So I think you're better off just slapping a choice band on it and spamming U-turn or Iron Head for the fairies that come in, and then Crunch and Outrage when you get a chance. And then Ursaluna, obviously, I don't think we really need to talk too much about it as a breaker. It's great. I think it's got so many good sets, not just Guts, but Bulletproof is great. I won a game on it in Kanto last year just because it was so good on the matchup. I think Lego is a great Scarfer. I just think I may have gone personally Ursaluna for the extra breaking, because your team doesn't have a lot of longevity is kind of my biggest issue with it. Your bulkiest mon is the Dunsparce or Rotom Wash. Hatterene,
maybe Age Slash.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not as bulky as you think. I feel like it still takes...
Right? It still takes a lot of damage.
Yeah, and it's,
You don't have, like, Wish support on this team.
Right.
And I mean, and I spoke on hazards earlier. I'm sure you have Hatterene for Magic Bounce, but realistically, most times your mons aren't going to be liking switching in on hazards. Like, Torn is probably, like, gets around spikes, but if you're going to be wanting to run a non-boots item on your Terra set, then you're going to be getting ripped apart by rocks. It's going to be very prediction heavy with Hatterene.
Yeah, I agree. I still think this team, it's got great pivot options in the U-turn and Volt Switch, and then obviously if you can run the baton pass successfully on to Dunsparce, which I think is a great 4-point Terra Captain, but it's going to do a lot of damage. But if you get into a match where you're going to have a hard time breaking one of their walls, I think it could wall you pretty easily, and then you may struggle to win from there. But that's assuming they have the right mon to kind of wall all your stuff or make a couple good plays. So I don't think this team is bad. It wasn't in my amazing teams if I remember correctly, but I still like some of it.
Yeah, I like this team too. I could easily see myself playing this team. It's just on the rubric it loses some of my points.
Gotcha. Okay. We'll hop on to the next one.
And this is the Santa Fe Sandacondas, right?
Indeed.
So, looking at this team, going right into my notes here, uh, you are putting a lot on Klefki's back. It is both your fairy and your steel, which kind of sucks. Uh, it makes it so that, like, you always have to switch it in on certain mons, and I feel like it's going to be very abusable. Like, a lot of mons that run Draco or Outrage typically have either Flamethrower or Earthquake, so it's going to be getting hit super effectively a lot of the time. It's going to come in, and then you're just not going to have a wall unless you're tearing Iron Hands or Decidueye defensively, which is not what I feel like this team wants to do. This team looks like a Webs offense type of team, and so having to potentially Terra defensively really sucks. Outside of that, no grounded poison, so that loses a point.
We also screwed this up. I screwed this up. It's Terra Iron Hands, not Volcarona. I saw that and I was like, I'm pretty sure we banned that. So it's actually Iron Hands, but that makes much more sense considering those point totals don't make sense. So yeah, that was my bad on the sheet. But yeah, it's Iron Hands, not Volcarona. Whew, that would be really broken.
Yeah, that would be broken. That would be pretty strong. Well, that's pretty much my notes on it. I mean, outside of that, like, you have some good things going. You know, I like Mouse Hold. I wish it was Terra. That'd be wonderful. I love me Terra normal Mouse Hold. And you have like strong mons like Jianpao, Esparthra. Gosh.
Espathra.
Yeah, I know. I started going Overwatch with Esperanza or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's a couple decent things on this team, but I don't know. Just the eyeball test for me doesn't do a whole lot. I think you're only running defog on Decidueye. If you're forced to run defog on Klefki, maybe your other one, but you really don't want to run it on Volcarona or Dragonite at all. Espathra, I think the cat's out of the bag on this one. I think most people know how to beat it, and especially without Terra. Dark type kind of sits in there, and it's a little tough. And then also no grounded poison. Espathra is one that really doesn't want to take poison and put itself on a timer when it's trying to sweep. So I think that's a little tough. And removal. If you're gonna go mouse hold, you're not gonna want to bring mouse hold every game. It doesn't. It dies so easily. Even at if you get the +1, it's not always killing. So I think it's a little tough. I don't love this team, but I think
I feel like you're forced into boots on a lot of mons you don't want to be forced into boots on.
Yeah.
Qianpao being a big one. You want to be running your band a lot of the times, maybe Life Orb, get that extra little bit of breaking power. And putting so much on Klefki's back, you're going to probably have to go boots a lot of the time.
Yeah, I think you really Volcarona usually doesn't want to run U-turn because you're setting up. So I think it's a lot of it, and Espathra is the same way. You're not going to want to run U-turn. So you're really only pivoting on mouse hold, maybe Iron Hand. Like you're not always running Volt Switch, and you're not doing any damage with it. And I think that's kind of where you are in the pivoting. So this one may get a little tough, especially if people start setting up on you or get a spike. You're going to be just hard swapping and in just guessing. So that may be tough. Again, though, you do have Qianpao. You can win any game. So.
Yeah, and this team has a lot of cheese potential. I feel like is the way I'd put it, because
it's a noob killing team for sure.
Right, some teams you're just going to run into, and they're not going to be able to handle Volcarona. They're not going to be able to handle Dragonite. They won't be able to handle Web's offense.
Oh, it's Swords Dance, Iron Hands. I mean, there's
right.
Yeah, you have a lot of good setup options, which sucks to prep against and may cause some oversights on some other things you may be able to get in and win. But yeah, I mean, it's not my favorite team by any means, but I don't think it's the worst.
Yeah, I see this team picking up games.
Yeah. Okay, and next we have Will Porter, who is just Will Porter because he didn't have a team name yet, and he doesn't have a logo, so I just put a picture of Ash and Zero or a Zorua, whatever you pronounce the little fox thing up top. I like this team. I just lost the finals game to Coco Leaves. shenanigan kind of crap. I think Leaves is a great Terra. I probably would have gone with Thorns as well instead of Titan, considering this is a terrain team. Or if you could have, Armor Rouge might have been another choice. I don't love Titan. I don't think it's very good. I think it's very predictable. But I think other than that, the rest of the team is, for me, very good. The defog options kind of suck. But other than that, I like it. I think it's pretty good.
Yeah, they got a couple issues on the rubric. No dragon type for that core. Another team without a grounded poison.
Yeah, that's tough.
And I think your speed tiers are a little awkward. You go from 130 straight down to 104. I mean, you do get like the quirk drive shenanigans, but
and weak armor.
You can't. Yeah, but you can't always rely on your gimmicks to work.
True.
Every week, right? So then your team kind of falls off a cliff. You go from like the 104 to 91 because you're not going to always want speed on Lando. Most times you're going to want to be running it defensively, and then you go down 75 and lower. So this team's going to feel like struggle against a lot of faster teams. You might even end up running like Scarf on something like Iron Leaves with like a attack boosting, Quark Drive a lot of the time. I can see that being exploitable.
Yep, and the one thing that is kind of tough is that you don't have spin, so you are going to remove that terrain every time you click defog, which can make it a little tougher. But I've seen Armor Rouge, Leaves, Coco, Lando, Azumarill, all kind of sit up and kill leaders before. Azumarill is a pretty solid defensive mon in this gen, just with Chi-Yu and Chien-Pao kind of having a tougher time breaking it and being able to hit back really hard. So it's, Bisharp with an Eviolite will be interesting to see how that works out. It becomes a much better mon instantly. So there's some things I like. I do like about this. Just not my S-list team, but not terrible.
Yeah. Also something that's worth mentioning on this team is you have a very tough time switching into fairy types. Armor Rouge is like your only one because your steel is also part dark. Something like Lele, which outspeeds like the entirety of this team for the most part and changes the terrain, is going to be very difficult for you.
Yep, that'll be tough. Yeah, Bisharp's gonna have to carry that a lot, but can't sucker punch back. So, but what's the special defense on that? So it gets up. Oh, he's got low HP, but it might be able within Violite to do something. But,
yeah, it's just worth noting. Watch out for
worst.
Moonblasts.
I don't think either of us have this at the bottom, so we this is kind of in the middle for, I think, closer to the top for me, but I think more towards the middle. I don't remember. Jungle Gang and Nego Loser.
This is a very interesting team. I'll let you start on this one.
So my first thing I saw was Dragalge with the Terra. I think you lose your adaptability basically on Poison and Dragon when you Terra. So I can't confirm that, but that's what I've been told.
I know the interaction is janky.
Yeah, so I don't think adaptability is as good unless you're gonna go Poison or Dragon, and then maybe it boosts it by like another half, but it seemed odd. I would have gone Heatran or Kirim or even Lycanroc Dusk.
Poltergeist would have been good.
Yeah, or Poltergeist. Yeah, Poltergeist is actually very good on this. Actually, it has Terra Blast, and it'll be interesting to see in tomorrow or something when we see the new form of it. But yeah, this team's kind of odd. Your fastest mon is Persian, which is just like never coming. I just don't ever see it coming. But
it's like half into Trick Room as well with Slowking, but like not slow enough to really lean into the Trick Room. Like you have mons that are slower. Like Dragalge is cool under Trick Room. You can make Heatran work under Trick Room. But then you start getting into like the 95s, the 92s, right?
Yeah.
Which aren't typically Trick Room mons,
No, you'd have to run like room service or something on them to be really
And
slow.
Lycanroc isn't an every game kind of Pokemon, so really your fastest mon that you're going to be wanting to bring often is Sandy Shocks, which is 101. Which, I mean, sure, you get the drop on those base 100s by a point, but it's a really middling speed tier team.
Yeah,
And
it's
then,
it's tough, I think.
yeah, and then I have down here a couple notes. Once again, on water breaking, you really just have Sandy Shocks to do the job, and Sandy Shocks is part ground. And you can't break water grounds very well at all with Sandy Shocks. Another
Well,
team with,
freeze dry Kyurem does do a lot.
yeah, but I'm saying if you have to switch into them,
Oh yeah,
God
yeah.
forbid.
Kyurem's your best water swap in, and that's assuming you're not physical, so you can take Scalds. But
hmm
freeze dry doesn't
Uh,
do a ton all the time.
and then your removing options is only two Mons. To be fair, Hitmontop I actually think is a pretty good spinner. Better than most people give it credit for. I've used it a lot.
Yeah, I like
Um,
it.
but then Togekiss doesn't always want to be a defog set, so it's just everything in here just feels like it's one push from in like one different direction away from being like a good team. It's just like right awkwardly in the middle. Like I wouldn't even call it jack of all trades, master of none. It's like a jack of almost like jack of most trades, almost masters of none.
Yeah, that's not a bad assessment of it. It's got some like I like Sandy Shocks. I think for what it does, it's good. I feel like it's a little roll compressed here, where it's gonna want to set um, spikes or rocks every time, and then volt switch T-bolt, earth power, or some shenanigans with a booster. I mean, it does do a lot of damage, but yeah, I think I would have gone a Heatran or a Kyurem is my biggest issue with it for your Terras, and then I don't know something. Although I don't know if you actually could because of the points. You may have that may be why he went it the way he did. But yeah, it's I don't love the team, but I don't hate it by any means. I just think there's some things that probably should be updated on it.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, I'll let you take this one.
Yeah, so give me just a second. Let me pull up my notes here really quick. Totally is the name of the team. So this is the Blaziken team. Uh, a couple of notes that I took in. The very first thing I noticed when I looked at this team is that you don't have a good Ghost resist or immunity. And your Terra options defensively are really poor as well. I doubt you're going to be wanting to turn Trap Pinch into a normal or a dark type. Same with Ampharos most weeks. You probably don't want to bring it, which means it's just Latios. And if it was Latios, I could give it a little bit more of a pass. But
This is an offensive Terra
yeah,
set
this
for
is an
sure.
offensive Terra, right? And you're not going to want to turn it Ghost. I mean, you could for Ghost for Shadow. I mean, not Ghost, but you don't want to turn it normal or dark almost ever. So if you run into like Dragapult or Annihilate, something like that, you are going to have a tough time if that team gets the initiative. But that's the whole thing. That team has to get the initiative. This team is very offensive heavy, right?
It's
Um,
like it's almost heavy offense.
yeah, like the only thing that kind of just sits back really at all is Sylveon, but even then you tend to use that with Baton Pass on this team, I imagine, to switch into something like Blaziken on a good BP or etc.
Yeah,
Um,
one thing I like about this team is I think they're between Blaziken setup and Latios being set up. You're like one turn away, especially with Terra Latios. You're kind of it almost feels like you're always one bad move away from losing on a Sword Stance or a Calm Mind Electric Terra, where you just have no you have no weaknesses on Latios. That is scary. I think it's the speed tiers aren't terrible. Blaziken at 80 is kind of false with speed boost. It makes it much quicker. Bundle is incredibly fast and hits hard. Just make sure you hit a hydro pump. And then Zapdos is a great 100 speed, bulky or offensive, and Nidoking's also kind of a top tier middling speed. So I don't know. I like the team. I think it's pretty scary, but yeah, there are a couple
yeah,
holes.
as we've been talking about, I think my issue with this team is just the variance that you're going to run into, right?
Oh yeah.
Variance in matchup, variance in moves hitting, Draco missing or Hydro Pump missing could completely switch your momentum, right? Um, Blaziken's not always going to have the perfect matchup a lot of the time. It's a very good mon, especially with speed boost, but it will eventually KO itself in a lot of matchups. This team will like win or lose. I feel like on matchup and missing. Which is kind of just Pokemon in general, but I feel like it's like exponential with this team.
Kind of feels like it. Hurricane. It's gonna be dependent a lot on Hurricane hitting. I feel like for Zapdos and
Hurricane,
Hydro Pump.
Hydro, Draco, you know.
Yeah, it happens. But I mean that is Pokemon for you. So, but you
Yep.
know, Ferrothorn is if you're gonna have one real setter, Ferrothorn is pretty good for that. Good pivots in Zapdos, Bundle, Blaziken, and then honestly Sylveon if you want to pass, if you want to baton pass. So I don't think it's bad. This is a team I would like playing with personally, so that's probably why I have it higher than I think you do. But we can move on. I think we covered this one pretty good. I do want to see Trap Pinch come in and just go Terra Bug first impression on something, but
I imagine that's what it's gonna do, right?
yeah, I think so. Yeah.
It's a really good cheap Terramon in my opinion.
100
You
attack
always
is a
see
lot.
the meme game when it comes in, traps something, and just KOs it.
100 attack is not really laughable at a baby mon basically.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Shandy, or as he is right now, Shamdy, Phantoms of PBA.
Yeah, so with the Phantoms of PBA, this is the Garchomp team. When I say the Garchomp team, I feel like this is like the Chomp team. You only have one defogger, which is going to be Mandibuzz, right? You have a lot of momentum options, which is really cool. Like there's a lot of cool things I feel like that goes on with this team, but once again, it just falls into those awkward issues where you don't really have any mons to set up. It's really just Roserade because you're going to be wanting to use Garchomp a lot of the time as a setup sweeper with Terra. So fitting on Stealth Rock or Spikes is going to be awkward. So your hazard game is just really weak. That being said, you have a lot of the things that hit my rubric. You know, you have your grounded poison, your speed tiers are all right. I don't really feel like there's too much cohesion going on the team, especially with Golden Go. You want to have a good like setting game. I feel like so it's just a bit awkward in a lot of different areas.
I don't actually know if this team was a meme team or not. I think everybody balled. So he drafted F it we ball. I think he sent images of people just bouncing a ball every single time. So that may have been part of it. It was a basketball themed team.
Yeah, I could see that.
So I don't know. I like the pivoting. It's a pretty it's heavy offense. Let's just call it what it is. It is heavy offense. The HP stats pretty low, defense is pretty low. Regice kind of beefs up that special defense, otherwise it wouldn't be massive. But a couple really great Scarf options almost across the board. Same thing with Specs or Choice Band. So I think this is a pretty solid team.
Realistically, every mon on this team except for Regice, I feel like could be a choiced
Honestly,
mon, right?
It could be. I mean, Specs 100 Ice Beam probably hurts. It also it has Bolt Beam coverage, I know.
I mean, it does, but I can't remember the last time I've seen a choiced Regice.
Yeah, I don't know. Hey, maybe Shamdy will do it here. But yeah, I think we both agree this isn't like a terrible team by any means. I think especially for what I think is supposed to be a meme team, is pretty solid.
Yeah, and like I said, Garchomp's good, especially with Terra. You're just gonna get in, you're gonna set up, you're gonna kill shit. It's great.
Oy. Radical Rotoms. This is orange soda. Rode the escalator 7 times. Buck at one point, I think, in the server. It is a fat team. It's almost stall to me. It might be stall.
Yeah, like this is like one real bit away from being stall, in my opinion.
Yeah. It's so fat.
It is very fat.
Yeah, who hurt you? Who hurt you that this was what you wanted to go with?
Almost every mod on this team gets knockoff to like remove lefties and stuff like that. It's a lot. I mean, realistically, your hazards you have almost are, but your hazard setters really are just going to be Clefable and Glysacore. But once again, kind of like a reoccurring theme I've seen in Johto is your main rocker is your Terramon, which is a bit awkward in my opinion. I know Glysacore is coming back, but it's not going to have Terra in this league. Terra Blast, right?
Right. Yeah. It doesn't. It's everything's pre the DLC, which is in like September.
Yeah, and so it's going to be a bit weird that it's your Terra Captain because it's your two removers is Glysacore and Sarina, and then one of your two rockers is Glysacore and Clefable. So unless you're running like a defensive Rocks, Defog, U-turn, Earthquake, or Knockoff, it doesn't seem like it really wants to Terra most of the time. So like, is it just going to be set up? I don't know. It's the only awkward part that I really see in this team.
So I think Gliscor, Facade at normal Gliscor becomes quite an issue. And he has, to be fair, he has Clef and Slowbro who are great fighting answers. So adding another normal type, which Hisui also, Zorak Hisui doesn't take fighting damage either. So it's not. I think it's a decent offensive kind of Terra Captain on this team just because he's got Slowbro and Clefable, and honestly, AV, Serena, Gudra that can kind of take up the mantle. It does open up Zamazenta to be a full offensive option, whether that be Howl, Workup, whatever you want to use. And then if you really want to get crazy, which is very common, the Iron Defense, Body Press, Rest Set. Once you eliminate the Ghost on the other team, it's really tough to kill. I obviously love Salazzle, aka Old Greg, the Johto staple over here. Just a cancerous mon. And I think Electrode Hisui is still underpriced at 5, personally. I think it's so good, especially at a lower price. Anything, I think 5 and under, it's a steal.
And you mentioned the ghost types on the other team. Removing the opposing ghosts, I feel like is going to be a big thing because once again, this is a team that really lacks a true immunity to ghost. You have Zorak Hisui, which is a normal type, but it's not one that you really want to have switching in defensively.
No.
So.
Yeah, Serena, I think, is going to be doing a lot of the removal lifting, but this is not a bad team by any means. I think it's actually a pretty good team. It's just so bulky, and I think we're in a generation where that's become less and less advantageous, especially with the PP nerfs. So I don't know how well it'll do, but it is still. I still think this is going to be a tough team for most teams to break, and it may be able to capitalize on that with a little chip, and then Zamazenta sweeping or Gliscor getting Rock Polish, Scarf, Sui, Omastar, Shell Smash if he's feeling crazy, or Nasty Plot, Salazzle. He's got some good options to kind of clean up if he can whittle some things down with the bulk he has. So, good team. Just, I don't like it because I don't like how fat it is. But I do love the Salazzle and Omastar.
I don't like it because of a few other different reasons, but, it's good.
It's good. It's a good team.
All right, Gudra Gang up next. So how do we keep letting Glenn draft Tapu Fini Zeraora? How does this keep happening? I'm not here anymore, and it still happens.
I know. I'm excited to watch people get 6-0'd by the Finny again because I'm not there for it to happen. It's just Tapu Winnie. It does it every season at least once or twice to somebody who just did not prep well for it. You heard it here first, folks. Prep for the Calm Mind sub Fenny, or you are going to get 6-0'd if you don't have a response to it. It's coming. He already almost 6-0'd somebody with Mew in a similar style, so lovely.
It's his classic set, right? So,
Oh yeah.
I mean, the only thing that would make this team more Glenn is if Scizor was like what, Mega Aggron?
Yeah.
Yeah.
His core.
Another thing, Chiyu in round 4. I mean, we haven't even gotten to talking into the team. We're just talking about
Glenn as a person.
Glenn as a person, right?
No, yeah, I don't know what happened in Johto that Chiyu fell to 4. I know it's not new toy syndrome anymore, but it still nukes resist to the ground. Like I mean, I don't know why no one took it, but it makes this team pretty
the one
scary.
that puts so much on like the builder, right? So
yes, so much. You realistically need 2 answers.
Alright, and so I will go into the only things I don't like about this team that got me to put it a little bit lower. And one of them is like almost a non-issue because you have Feeny with Misty terrain. No grounded poison for T-Spikes, which is only a half issue. Speed tiers are a little bit awkward. I mean, Regigigas really isn't a base 100 speed tier mon, but you have 3 base 100s, then you have a 95, and then a bunch of 85s, and then 2 65s. It's very easy to speed creep this team. And you're not always going to be bringing Lycanroc normal, so you do have that 112, but most of the time it's a 100 to 143 jump in the builder. That's probably like the biggest thing that I noticed. Outside that, your ground immunity is a little bit lacking. It's just going to be Haunter, right? And Torterra is kind of like a fake mon ground resist. You know what I mean? I mean, sure it has Terra, but
then you
you're
lose
gonna be
your
a little
ground
bit
resist.
EQ weak. Yeah,
it's,
exactly, right?
I think Torterra is a good defensive option. I think Como is a great offensive option between Boom Burst, Dragon Dance, Iron Defense. Like the ultimate setup mon is obviously going to be more of an issue with Terra. I mean, this is a good team. I think the first 6 could basically come to every single game, and you'd probably still win. If they knew they were coming, and you'd probably still win half. Just
Realistically, this is just a first 6 team, which isn't bad. I mean, most people, if you see this team, you're fighting Glenn this week, prepare for Feeny, prepare for Zeraora, prepare for Chiyu, and then make sure you're preparing for Como. You can kind of push past the other 2, Mew and Scizor, because you can't really know exactly what they're doing, but just don't let those mons run you.
Yeah, I think the Mew and Como variety and sets will be the most important things that Glenn mixes up so people don't get used to it. And, obviously they're 2 of the best mons at having multiple things they could run. Lycanroc is still like, good mon when he wants to guarantee rocks up early, or Torterra is great if he has a bulky offensive physical mon that he needs to Terra into to deal with. I mean, I've never really seen Glaceon used, but as a Terra kind of defensive mon, it is pretty solid, and it does hit for a ton on the special side. So, interested to see how those 2 work out, but I think we both agree this is a really good team.
Yeah, don't get 6-0'd. This is the realistic team that's going to happen to you.
It's going to happen. I can't wait for that. Just gonna I'm gonna jump in the spoilers and just type a bunch of dots in there. All right, who is next? Oh, PokeJoe'd's team. Also, PokeJoe'd does not have a team name yet or a logo, so he just gets Detective Pikachu.
All right, can I talk about this team? Because I feel like I have a lot to say on this team. This team did get very high on my, it got decently high. It's about it's like the upper half of my rubric, but the first 3 picks are so beautiful. They make my little rubric heart soar. Fairy Dragon Steel, Psychic, Dark Fighting, 2 of your cores instantly completed. Jirachi, right? My favorite Pokemon. I think Terra Pikachu is low-key threat. You got a good defensive back with mons like Tangros, Stellar Dirge. Jirachi can be defensive. I love stuff like Excadrill. This team just looks very nice to me. I love the way this team looks. There's a few things like I don't know if Halucha is going to be like a real mon most of the time. It's kind of vying for its spot against Iron Valley a lot of weeks. But your first 3 mon as a core is just so good looking on paper. I just love it. It brings such a smile to my face looking at those.
Yeah, I mean this is a very good team. Valiant didn't even go first, which I think is pretty rare. Usually it's the first pick in the draft. So I think you got it in the third choice overall, but it's obviously it's probably the best cleaner in the game right now, right? With booster mixed, it's got
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's really hard to prep for if it's going to come physical, special, or mixed.
Yeah.
It's such a good mon.
Yep. I think he's got, you know, between Jirachi, Hydreigon, Pikachu, Clawitzer, it's a pretty solid pivoting group. I think he's got really good defensive mons, particularly with Dirge, Tangrowth, Ursaring. Terra Normal Pikachu with just Fake Out and Extreme Speed is super scary.
Yeah, realistically, we might be losing you a game or two here just by bringing it up, because most people are going to look at this and start prepping for Terra Hydreigon. But you got to prep for Terra Pikachu,
Yep.
realistically.
Yeah, it's I think there's an EDC division that it finished first in kills because it was Terra Normal. He's got great removal. Hydreigon doesn't have to run it, which is great. Halucha, thanks to Mold Breaker, is the best defogger, kind of in a weird sense. One of the best defoggers.
Yeah, against Golden Go,
Yeah.
right?
Yep, it's kind of what it's like great for. Although to be fair, Excadrill doesn't or Goldingo doesn't really want to swap into Excadrill even if it's clicking Rapid Spin. You're just forcing a free Earthquake. So, but yeah, this is a good team. Skeletor just probably would have been a great Terra choice, but Hydreigon's obviously fantastic. So I think this is a really good team.
The only thing that loses on the rubric for me, where it loses any like real points, is this not having a grounded poison, which I don't think is that big of an issue on this team in particular. You have mons that can get rid of it. Realistically,
got 1, 2, 3, 4 mons that don't even take it. So,
care.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. And then a lot of times you're going to be running boots on Skeletor. It's kind of a non-issue, but still hits on my point tier. If that wasn't a thing, then this could easily have ended up being the #1 team.
Yeah, I think it's close for sure. It's really good. Not much really bad things to say about it, so we'll just move on. Okay, Argentina Ampharos, and this is Zeke Gonzalez's team.
Yeah, so why don't you start on this one, and then I'll wrap back around.
I know Baxcalibur's great, but I don't think it was a first round pick, personally. I mean, maybe it's just something you wanted to use. Without Terra, I think it's a little less threatening. It's still a very scary mon with like a 145 attack, and Glaive Rush does a trillion damage. But I don't know if I would have taken it first. I think Manaphy Terra since we allow Tail Glow, I'm pretty sure, is a really good offensive Terra, and Jolteon is obviously a great budget Terra. The speed tiers on this are pretty solid. Nothing in 120, but it's not the end of the world with Jolteon. Pretty good defensive sets. I don't love Scarm in draft as much anymore, but for you, it becomes a great hazard bot, or it doesn't even have to do that. It can be a good defogger, roost, toxic, Rocky Helmet kind of setup, and then it lets Claude open up so it doesn't have to run rocks or spikes every time. It can run more recovery or better, recovery and then 2 attacks and then maybe toxic spikes. So it's not bad. I think this team's pretty good.
Yeah, this team is pretty. I think that's like the thing with this team. It's just pretty good, and that's how I'd put it. Like, there's not anything that I feel like is pushing too hard into. You got all your cores. You got decent options for setting and removing, right? Your speed tiers are pretty good. There's like one awkward gap from 70 to 30, but realistically, most mons in that speed tiering tend to not be running too much speed most of the time. Most of the time they're running boosting natures anyways. it's not a whole lot bad to say. I like Manaphy. I wish, especially with Terra, if you had some way to set Rain, I think that'd be really, really scary. But that's good.
Yeah, this is a good team. This is a solid team. I think the only thing I think personally I prefer a better dark type that is a little bulkier or a more immediate threat, because I don't think Honchkro's coming very often. Um, and the
No,
fairy
not
Mimikyu's,
super often, but I've
yeah,
seen it do okay before. It's put in like very occasional work in the right matchup. And I think that's all it's coming for.
yeah. Superior is like a good backup. Glare is always a good move to have, and Infernape is just a kind of well-rounded mon. So I think this is just a well-rounded team. It's probably not my favorite team I draft or play, but I understand I see it as a good team still.
Yeah, it's got its merits.
Okay. I'll let you go on this one first, but we got Baltimore Blastoise coached by Davio Wolf.
Yes, if I remember right, you like this team a lot, and I like the way this team looks
Well, that's why
as
I like it.
well.
It looks
All
good.
right, it looks very good. So I guess I'll go into where it lost points on my rubric first because I think this team is very, very good as well. So going into the cores, you're missing, I believe, a fighting type, which is taking points away from my rubric. Um, and then I took a very small amount of points away for speed tiers because the jump from 106 to 142 leaves room for like modest or adamant natures in there. Um, outside of that, though, very strong like game plan that this team has. Your removal is a bit weak. Uh, looking at it here, you have Glamora with Mortal Spin and then Defog on Oricorio. So really just the Mortal Spin on Glamora. But I use a team with Glamora Dragapult and it works quite well. You have Mimi, T-Spikes, Hex stuff that you can do. You got the webs, you got big wishes into Melmetal. There's a lot of good things that this team has going on. Just a very few small issues with not a whole lot of momentum, typically on a week per week basis. And then your hazard removing game is not the greatest.
Yeah, I understand those things, but honestly, I don't know how often. I think this team is
The
going to go
onus is going to be on your opponent to remove hazards with Tinglu and Glamora, right?
right. Well, not just that, but I think you're going to really struggle if the other team is wasting a turn to defog. You have a chance to get Melmetal in and click Terra Steel, double Iron Bash. I'm pretty sure it knew. I lost to one because it nuked through my full defensive iron treads. It was a two shot. And Melmetal is, if it is so hard to kill, even especially if it runs Assault Vest. It's so tough. Victini's a great U-turner. Dragapult, great U-turn. Um, the most annoying Water Wish ever. Webs also make this team incredibly strong, where you can run Modest, Victini, or Adamant, and then same thing with Enamorous. Pult, if you really want to calc and you plan on having it, you can almost run full bulk. You don't ever need to run any type of speed. I think this is just a incredibly dangerous team, and I think it's a very Gen 9 team. One or two defensive options, and mostly just things that are going to try to kill you very, very quickly.
Yeah,
So,
and speaking of Mola again, because I'm kind of stuck up on the fat fish. You spoke on Terra Steel, Double Iron Bash, right? You took one of the best counters to that in Mola and just took it off the field.
yep,
Yeah, it's on your team now. So, oof.
it's good. I think it's a good team. Quilladin being your grass, I don't really think is that big of a deal. Just because Vikavolt can serve a similar purpose for resisting those ground and being immune. You also have Anam. Ground's not really doing very much to Tinglu in general. I think it just doesn't die. It is so thick. I know. I like it. I think this is going to be a really tough team to prep for. You might prep for darts, Dragapult, and lose to Specs. You might prep for double Iron Bash and lose to Body Press, Iron Defense. I mean, it's just a lot of options to win here. So
Really, it's going to be up to whatever you want to bring on a weekly basis with stuff like Pult and Amorous, whether you want to be Cute Charm or Contrary. Like a whole bunch of different options.
yeah,
We haven't even mentioned Victini just
I
sitting
mean,
in the back there, right?
I mean, yeah, you got it late. I got it, I think, in my second round. It was intention to be Terra, but when you got Mel, I think that was a better, honestly, probably a better Terra choice overall. Victini being, there are plenty of fire immunes, so I don't know. I think this is scary. I think if Melmetal's not working for you, you have two easy options in an Amorous and Victini to swap into. Oricorio is also a great Terra, especially at 2 points for offensive. Zangoose is your ghost immune, but Ting-Lu is obviously like, it doesn't worry about it.
So, no, not at all.
We'll move on. I'll let you take this one here.
Let me look up the New Jersey Numals, correct?
Yeah, this is Ander 3W.
Yeah, so this is a very interesting team. Let me just pull open my notes here. This is the Great Tusk, round 1. So, looking at this team, it hits a lot of my rubric very well. You got a lot of your cores that are coming together. Realistically, let me see here. I'm stalling for time. There we go. You got like the only areas that I took points off was your speed tiers are a little awkward. Not the most awkward because you have that like stair step, but on most of the teams, I'm looking for something that breaks the 120 barrier, especially in Gen 9. We're starting to see mons that consistently get over 120 on most teams, and so being just under it with Cinderace is a little bit that's very nitpicky. And then your hazard removing, I count like Cinderace as like a half removing mon, right? And you already have a bunch of removers that you got on the team. Where you're struggling is your setting. Aeron is not really a real hazard setter, and then Great Tusk is your only rocker, and then you get T spikes on Weezing Galar. Your hazard game's just a bit weak, and that's really what holds the team back.
Yeah, I think I don't love this team as much, I think, as you had it higher. But there are some things I do like. I do like your initial just went kind of more defensive with Tusk and Corviknight. I know Tusk is also a great physical breaker when needs be, but I feel like it runs a lot more defensive. Just with spin, AV is great. If you want to run booster, you can. It's one, people think it's probably one of the best draft mons, and it probably really is. I think you're more dependent on Cinderace just pressuring hazard control, knowing they can't just freely click it. That does free up Corviknight to run some more fun sets like Body Press, Iron Defense, or Bulk Up.
Agility, assurance.
Yeah, there's a lot of
assurance, no power trip is what it is. Excuse me.
It's good. Mence is a great Terra Captain with Intimidate and Moxie. One could be more defensive, one could be a really dangerous sweeper. I think Melodic is still just a great pickup. I don't even know if we allow level 1 Aeron shenanigans, but if you do, you get it to work, awesome, super fun. I
don't think we do.
Oh, we don't? But... That's a bummer. But I personally hate the Weezing Galar. I just feel like it's just kind of not good at anything. It's got high defense but low HP, and with the you want to run Levitate so you don't get smacked by EQ or Earth Power, but then you're not picking up toxic. Yeah, and then you're not picking up toxic spikes. So neutralizing gas is okay, but then you're weak to the ground again. It's just I just don't think it's that good. I'd rather just go regular Weezing personally, but I know Doug Demodome people like to draft, so I get it.
Yeah, And like I said, Salamax is a good Terra captain. I like it a lot. Your Moxie Scarf Terra sets are gonna be really cool, or DD. You know, it seems kind of like a it seems not bad. This is like it's just good across the board. You don't have anything that's just stand out. That's gonna be really bad. And I feel like you're gonna have answers to most teams. It's just closing that game out because you're not like a dedicated stall team in such an offensive metagame. You're kind of not quite offensive enough either. I could see it winning. It's just gonna need to play well and not miss your pyro balls, gunk shots, etc.
Yeah, it's still a good team. It's just I didn't like it as much, I think. But let's see who we have left here. Can't be many. Giggle is coached by Benny Sama. Was this a wheel pick by chance? I don't remember.
Let me check really fast. Does not look. Yeah, it's like in the low. It's the third lowest. Like
Gotcha on the
spot
draft
like
order.
spot like 13.
I was just surprised to see
No,
someone
spot
took.
14.
Yeah, I was surprised to see someone took Urshifu Rapid before uh, Lando. But maybe that's your comfort pick and you really want to try it.
I don't know. I think Urshifu Rapid is underrated. Honestly.
I just would have thought you would have gone. I mean, I think King Gambit is absolutely the right choice to go Terra, 100%. I don't know how it made it that far in the draft unpicked, but yeah, it's a great. That's like one of the best Terra captains. It's probably debatably bannable at some point, seeing how it does this season. But it's incredible. The immediate offense between Urshifu, Landorus, King Gambit is really good. I think I would have liked to have seen a couple more offensive pieces before you went into Florges, Vaporeon, Amoonguss. Rotom Heat's kind of like a mix, can do both, and Lottie's kind of similar. But yeah, it's your rocks and hazards are kind of weak, but otherwise it's still. It is definitely not a bad team. Its typing chart on the bottom looks great.
Yeah, the typing chart looks great. This team hits all of my rubric very well, right? Going up to it, like the only things that it like loses points on is your speed tiers, realistically, and then hazard setting. So, because you don't really want to set rocks on Lando a lot, and then King Gambit is your Terramon most weeks. So you also don't really want to be forcing it into a rocking position all the time.
I
That's
agree.
that's kind of like the bigger issue. But otherwise, I like this what this team does. I could see myself drafting a team like this. I probably wouldn't double up on the wish support, but who knows? I like a lot of the mons on this team, so it's for me. I like this team. Your speed tier at 110 being your top, once again, I think is going to be a bit of an issue. A lot of weeks you are going to be significantly behind on speed. A lot of mons break, like I said, above 120 into the 130s,
Yeah, you're gonna
all the
have to be.
way up to 150, right?
Kind of feels
So,
like you're forced into Rotom Heat Scarf or Urshifu Scarf. I mean, you can run Lando Scarf, but it's definitely not your. You won't want to do that most weeks.
and you don't want to always run Lottie Scarf, so
Right.
you're going to feel that pressure in the builder. But that being said, the core of this team is very good. It's very consistent, right?
Yeah. It's hard to.
Urshifu Rapid's always going to be consistent.
Yep.
Landorus is always going to be consistent.
Tough to
King
break, I
Gambit's
think.
going to be consistent.
Yeah, I
Lots
think.
of momentum wish options. I like it.
Yeah, it's not my cup of tea what I would play with in this gen, but I do see like the value. I hate Amoonguss. What a stupid mon. The design, Spore, Regenerator. It's just so stupid. Thanks, Game Freak. But it is very good, and it's just so miserable to prep for. You almost have to have goggles. You can trap, kind of get it with goggles and a sub and set up, but come on. But yeah, it's still a good team. I think it's a good team. It's just not my cup of tea.
Yeah. Next
Russian,
up is the Rapidashes.
yeah, Russian
Let me.
Rapidash is coached by Martin V. Tran. I think that's how you probably pronounce the last bit here.
So I'll go into why this team is rated so high for me, right? Um, I took a bit off because look at your speed tiers. And then that's about it. Realistically, I put the cohesion on this team very high. I like what this team has going on. You have Wishes into Celesteela. You have a lot of momentum just in general. Pretty much whatever you're going to be wanting to bring any week is going to have switching options. Uh, Screamtail is just like a bundle of whatever it wants to be. I think Iron Moth's a great Terror Captain.
For
It's
sure.
just got a lot of good things going on. Just being held back very minimally by a couple things for me. And that's just on paper, though. I think realistically, this team runs into some issues going into live games, right? But I like the way this team looks. I think this team looks very consistent in my eyes. Masquerada, Palafin, Celestia, Iron Moth, Screamtail seems like a really good core to me. It's going to be viable into most teams, and then whatever mon you want to be bringing situationally in the end there.
Yeah, I would say Screamtail is fake speed because you're just a lot of time, unless you're running like a Calm Mind or Bulk Up, you're probably not investing a ton into speed, which is kind of nice because you can make it go full speed. And, if you need to beat something in the 80s or 90s, you don't have to invest much to still keep a lot of bulk, which is nice. I think it's a really, really
Screamtail is
good
much
babe.
more of like a base 100 mon.
Yeah, it's a great Wish Passer. I actually think Ninetales Alola getting it was a great pickup just because I think this team functions really well under Veil because it's not your heavy hitting mons like Meowscarada, Iron Moth, Fundy, Palafin to some extent are a little squishier. So Veil can really keep them uh, beefy and it's a good team for sure. I love Meowscarada, Palafin, Iron Moth is your 1, 2, 3. Good speed, and then two of Palvin hits like a truck on the special side too. If you can get like a throat spray, boom burst, grass knot, surf, flip
Yeah, it
turn.
can surprise you.
Yeah, it's good. Meowscarada is obviously great. I don't love the stealth rock options. Screamtail's not bad for it, but a lot of times you want to run Wish Protect, and then if you're running rocks, you're having a harder time. Something is setting up on you if that's what you're running. So it can kind of compress. Knuckle Stack's not going to come a lot. I know it came week 1, but I don't think it's coming every week here, especially with some of the other mons you've got. So this kind of functions again like a heavy offense, but it's good. I
I,
like this
I
team.
think I think I think you're cowarding out on Screamtail. Just run last move encore. Who needs an attacking move?
I mean, yeah, I have been walled by zero attack Screamtail before, so I get it. Yeah, Celesteela is one that I think people aren't very high on anymore in draft because I think there's a lot more options. But I mentioned I would have liked to have seen it Terra, just because I want to see what it's like. But I think interesting. Also, Martin, a Crash Gang member, so happy to get you in this server too. So this is a good team. I mean, it's a good team. There's no doubt about it. It's just I think it's a little squishy, but I do think it's going to kill very quickly. So that may not be an issue. We gotta have like 1 or 2 left here.
Yeah, last
Speaking of
one
the
I
devil,
believe.
last one. I'll let you take this one away because you like it.
Yeah, I like this team a lot. It hits the rubric very well. Where you're losing points on my rubric specifically is going to be your hazard removing options, specifically Rapid Spin and Defog on Noivern. So, I mean, Iron Treads is very good for rapid spinning, but Noivern is going to be a bit awkward. So, really only have one remover, but you have a lot going for you elsewhere. I like the Slowking Galar into Arctazol with what's that move? Chili Reception.
Yep.
That's very, very good. I actually think Arctazol will do surprising work in the right matchups. And then what I like about this team a lot is that you have a lot of mons that will be able to momentum into Annihilate. And momentuming into Annihilate, when you think your opponent's going for a U-turn, when you end up in those like double U-turn turns with stuff like Noivern, or you end up volt switching on Iron Treads, and then Annihilate comes in, eats a U-turn, boosts up that Rage Fist. It's going to be very hard to wall. The only thing that kind of holds this team back is that Noivern is your fastest mon. It does break the 120 speed tier, which is what I'm looking for specifically. But it's kind of slow otherwise. A lot of your mons are based 70, 60, 50. And even though you can break that with Arctazol, that's where you're going to be struggling, right?
Yeah. I didn't have this team that high. I think it's very slow to me. I think you have half your draft basically under 80. And Thwacky is your 80. But I mean, Slowking Galar Iron Treads, Annihilate, Pre-Marina, and Noivern is a pretty good first five. Noivern is a good Terra Captain. The Boom Burst shenanigans are definitely real. Does it get Terra Blast?
Even if it doesn't, I think it does because it's a part of base Gen 9, so I think it does.
Okay, then it does for sure. I just don't remember if it was in Gen 9 or not. But yeah. I may have gone personally Woe Qian instead of Entei to give you a
I don't know, dude.
option.
I've seen a mon like Swellow just run leagues with just Terra normal specs.
Yeah, but that's because it gets the stab boost on top of it.
It gets the stab
and
boost,
Scrappy.
but I'm just saying you're pretty close with Noivern with
True.
Boom Burst. So
you have a higher
I'm okay
special
with it.
attack for sure. No, it's good. It's definitely a good Terra. I just would have gone instead of Entei, probably Wo-Chien, because I think Wo-Chien becomes a really difficult mon to kill once you remove that typing. You could go just straight dark or grass, and Leech Seed, Knockoff, Ruination, Protect, Leaf Storm, Giga Drain. I really like it. Actually, I think it's kind of underrated in draft. I think 11 points is probably accurate. When you get the leagues that drop into like 8 points, I think it's a steal. Ape, I think, is borderline bannable.
Even without being able to Terra, it is borderline bannable. I agree.
It just spirals so fast. But at first glance, I didn't really like this team as much. The more I look at it, I like it a little bit more. It's got some interesting things. The removal is pretty reliable between only having 2, but they're pretty solid removal options. You really only have Stealth Rock. I don't think Whiscash is coming. Toxic Spikes you might be able to work in there, but then you can't run Assault Vest, which I think is probably its best set sometimes. You can't run Chilly Reception then, but I don't know. There's some things I like, but God, it's again pretty fat. It's almost borderline stall. It feels like at times.
That's what I'm saying. I feel like borderline stall with Annihilate is good in my opinion.
I mean, you can whittle some things down and just either Scarf, Rage Fist, or just start clicking bulk up. So yeah, it's
Chilly out into Annihilate or Arctazol. You got your options.
True. Yeah, and Thwacky gives you the extra recovery if you needed it. So, yeah, good. Yeah, good team. Not my cup of tea. I didn't have it as high as you did here, but we'll hop into our final rankings.
Yeah, it's worth noting at the very end here, during the final rankings, that this was ordered based off of my rubric, the order that we had them. There are other teams I like better just off of looks, but I try to keep it as objective as possible going through here with a rubric. And a lot of the times, if your team ended up ranking low because of that going in this order, screw my rubric, it doesn't mean anything anyways. And if your team ended up at the top, great team, so
it's Fatty's team. Yeah, for me it was a lot of gut reaction and kind of what I saw. A lot of the teams in the middle, so like 6 to 12, they're kind of interchangeable for me. For me, it was like the top 4 or 5 were really good, and then the bottom 3 or 4 I didn't particularly love. But that's fine. It doesn't matter. PRs are just for fun. Don't take them too seriously.
Yeah, and if you notice in my ranking here, a lot of these teams are within 0.25 of each other. Most of them are within a point, right? Especially in the middle. So take that as you see
Yeah,
fit.
I mean, it doesn't matter again. So just they're for fun. Don't get too upset here with them. Let us know what you think when you hear it. Feel free to ping me and tell me my opinion's crap. Totally fine. I even appreciate it. So,
Yeah, my DMs are open to all hate. So,
any final thoughts?
uh, stop letting Glenn pick Feeney's Aurora. Stop.
Oh my god, yeah.
Johto, stop.
Glenn has an addiction. He's got to get his fix in Johto.
He's not going to get it one season. He's going to drop down to Hoenn. So just do it one of these seasons.
No, he might win and move up.
More power to him if it ends up breaking his crutch. You hear first, Glenn.
I think Glenn won like this one regular season before 2 seasons before I won, or won the regular season before I won the the championship. I think he was supposed to get moved up and then didn't play.
Yeah, I distinctly remember something like that as well, but Johto is kind of his home anyways.
It's a great place to be. It's a great division. All right, guys, we'll sign off here, but thanks for listening to us ramble for an hour here.
Yep, you all have a good season and best of luck.
Yeah, good luck, guys.